Hi everyone, this is Simran. Welcome back to our Denial Management Learning series. In our previous videos, we covered the 5 most common denials: CO-18, CO-16, CO-29, CO-96, and CO-50. These are all level 1 denials. Now, in this video, get ready. We are starting level 2 denials, and the first one we will explore is CO-97. Bundled denial. By the end of this video, you will clearly understand what CO-97 or bundled denial actually means in the simplest language. Why bundled denials really happen, including the hidden reasons. You will explore real, live examples from actual claims. We explain the hidden rules insurance companies use to resolve bundled services. You will also explore practical, step-by-step solutions to fix bundle denials in just a few minutes. This knowledge helps you reduce rejections. It helps you get faster claim approvals on the first submission, and it builds strong confidence on calls as a professional AR caller and denial expert. Let's begin with the first question. What is CO-97 bundled denial in medical billing? Bundled denial means the insurance company is saying, "We already paid for this service as part of another procedure," because the insurance company believe this service is not separate, and the company consider it part of a bigger procedure that was already paid for. So, we will not pay for it again. For example, when you bill a surgical procedure, and at the same time, you bill separately for the surgical supplies and local anesthesia which you used during that surgery, the insurance company will not pay those extra charges. This is because surgical supplies and local anesthesia are essential to performing the procedure. They are not separate or independent services. Since these services are already expected and required to complete the surgery safely, the payer bundles them into the surgical payment and they are not eligible for separate reimbursement. And as a result, the payer denies your claim under CO-97 for bundled services. In simple words, the payer is basically saying, you already billed and got paid for a larger or primary service. This new service is part of that primary service and we already paid for it. So, we will not pay for it twice. I hope this makes it much clearer to understand what bundled denials or CO-97 really mean. Now let's move to the next question. Why do bundled denials actually happen? CO-97 bundled denials happen because of how the payer interprets the services, not because something was accidentally done wrong. This is not a billing mistake. This is how insurance rules work. Bundled denials happen because the payer applies strict coding rules. Their policy guidelines require certain services to be grouped. CCI edits force-related procedures to bundle together medical standards. Say these services belong to one complete procedure, not separate ones. When the payer sees services as one unit of work, they pay once, not multiple times. Even if the provider did perform the service, the insurance may still not pay for it separately due to bundle denial rules. And this is exactly where most new AR callers get confused. But you won't be confused, because I'm explaining it to you clearly. Why CO-97 or bundle denial occurs. There are 4 main reasons why CO-97 usually occurs. Reason 1. One service is considered part of another service. Reason 2. 2 procedures were performed on the same day. Reason 3. Services were performed during the global period. Reason 4. A required modifier is missing or incorrect, but don't get confused. We will explain each reason clearly with proper and easy solution step by step. Let us start denial reason 1. One service is considered part of another service. Some procedures or CPT codes are components of larger procedures or CPT codes. If you build one main or primary service and also build secondary services, in this case, the payer checks CCI edits and payer policy logic and asks, is this secondary service already included in the main or primary service? If the answer is yes, it is considered part of the main service. The payer then denies the secondary service as a CO-97 bundled denial. For example, a patient came in for E&M at morning and doctor suggests a minor surgery. Then on the same day in the evening, patient came in again for surgery. So the provider performed that surgery and billed CPT 12001 simple wound repair and CPT 99214 office visit or E&M on the same day. In this case, when the insurance company processed the claim, they paid for CPT 12001 but denied CPT 99214 for evaluation and management service with CO-97 as bundled denial. You may wonder, why did the insurance company deny CPT 99214? Because according to payer policy, when a procedure or minor surgery is performed, the same-day office visit is bundled unless you add Modifier 25 to show that the E&M service was separate and significant. Here, the provider did perform the evaluation and management 99214, but the insurance did not see proof that it was separate from the procedure 12001. So to get payment for the evaluation and management CPT code 99214, you should add Modifier 25 and billed as 99214-25. Modifier 25 tells the payer that the visit was a separate, significant, medically necessary EM, not part of the wound repair, not routine, not included in the procedure package. Once Modifier 25 is added correctly and supported by documentation, insurance understands, yes, this EM was separate and they pay it separately. Let us move on to the second reason. Two procedures were performed on the same day. When two procedures are performed on the same date of service, the payer does not automatically pay both. They analyze the relationship between the procedures and ask, are these procedures related to the same medical problem during the same visit or as part of one continuous treatment plan? Is one procedure a routine or integral part of the primary procedure or a required step of the main procedure according to coding and medical standards? Does the payer policy or CCI edits treat both procedures as a single session that should not be paid separately? If the answer is yes, the payer bundles the procedures. They reimburse only the more complex or higher valued CPT codes. They deny the lesser or component CPT code using CO-97 as a bundled denial. For example, imagine a patient comes to the hospital with two different but related problems. For example, the patient has abdominal symptoms and during evaluation, the doctor finds suspicious tissue and a polyp in the colon. The doctor decides to address both issues during the same visit using the same colonoscopy session.
So, the doctor performs two procedures on the same day and bills. CPT 45380. A colonoscopy where the doctor takes a biopsy. CPT 45385, a colonoscopy where the doctor removes a polyp simple, right? But here's what happens when insurance reviews the claim. They pay for 45385. They deny 4530 with CO-97, bundled denial. Now you may wonder, why did insurance deny one of them? Here's the simple reason. Insurance rules, called CCI edits, say if two procedures are done in the same session, sometimes one of them is already included inside the other. This means the payer checks whether the smaller service is a built-in part of the larger service when both are done together. In this example, the polyp removal 45385 is the bigger, more complex procedure. The biopsy 45380 is considered a smaller step that may already be included in that procedure. So insurance thinks like this. We already paid for the big procedure. The smaller procedure is part of it so that we won't pay twice. and that's why they deny 45380 with CO-97. Now, the important question, can we fix this denial? The answer is yes, we can fix this denial if the documentation supports it, if the doctor actually performed the biopsy on a different area or a procedure that was truly separate and distinct. Then you can use Modifier 59 or XS, XU, depending on the insurance company. This modifier tells the insurance both procedures were separate. They were done on different sites. They were not part of each other. Both should be paid, so you would bill it as 45380.59. But remember, this works only if the doctor's notes clearly prove the services were separate. Now, let us move on to the third reason for bundled denials, which is services were performed during the global period. First, understand this clearly. When a doctor performs a surgery or procedure, the insurance assigns a global period to that procedure. The global period is a defined time window set by Medicare and many commercial payers during which certain related services are already included in the payment for a procedure you performed and cannot be billed them separately. The global period includes preoperative visits before surgery, the procedure itself,
routine post-operative follow-up care. These services are bundled together into one payment. You generally cannot bill separately for routine follow-up visits, normal healing checks, dressing changes, suture removal, pain checks related to that surgery. This global period is a fixed number of days, such as 0, 10, or 90 days. Now here is the key point. If the provider bills extra services during the global period, the payer asks, is this visit or service related to the original surgery? Is it a routine follow-up, post-operative check, or aftercare? Is this service already included in the global package? If the answer is yes, the payer does not pay separately. They bundle the service and deny it as a CO-97 bundled denial. For example, imagine a patient comes to the hospital for a minor surgery. The provider performs the surgery, and this procedure carries a 10-day global period. Within those 10 global days, the patient comes back to the same doctor for a post-operative check, wound evaluation related to the surgery, and also complains of nausea and vomiting. During this visit, the provider performs an evaluation and management, or E&M service and bills. CPT 99213, office visit, E&M, and evaluation for nausea and vomiting. When the insurance company reviews this claim, here is how they think. They ask, is this visit related to the recent surgery? Is this a routine post-operative follow-up during the global period? Is the evaluation already included in the surgical package? If the answer is yes, the insurance company deny your claims as a CO-97 bundled denial. Because the visit happened within the 10-day global period, and the documentation does not clearly prove that the nausea and vomiting evaluation was unrelated to the surgery. That is why the payer decides this visit is part of post-operative care. So the insurance company bundles the E&M service and denies CPT 99213. If the nausea and vomiting were truly unrelated to the surgery and the documentation clearly supports it, then you can add Modifier 24 to tell this is an unrelated evaluation and management or global period service. Without strong documentation and the correct modifier, the payer will bundle the visit and deny it. Now, let us move to reason for missing or incorrect modifier. This is one of the most frequent and most fixable causes of CO-97 bundled denial. Many times, the service was correctly performed. The documentation is also correct, but the claim still gets denied. Why? Because the payer did not see the modifier that explains why the service should be paid separately. Here is how the payer thinks. When multiple services are billed together, the payer asks, is there a modifier that tells us these services are separate and distinct? Does the modifier override the bundling rule according to CCI edits or payer policy? If the modifier is missing, incorrect, or not supported by documentation, the payer will bundle the services, pay only the primary or higher valued CPT code, deny the other service with CO-97, bundle denial. Now, let us resolve CO-97 like professionals. Most beginners make one big mistake. They see CO-97 and immediately panic, but experts do the opposite. They check the remark codes first, because CO-97 tells you what happened, but remark codes tell you why it happened. Remark code adds the missing details that the main denial code, like CO-97, does not explain. For example, if you receive a bundled denial CO-97 with the remark code N362, it means CO-97 tells you your claim is bundled denial, but the remark code N362 clearly tells you that the service is not separately payable. So, this is how the remark code helps you understand the exact reason for the denial. But the most important point is, where do we check remark codes? They are not printed on any claim form, neither on the CMS 1500 form nor on the UB04 form. You can only find remark codes on EOB, Explanation of Benefits, which is a paper remittance, on ERA, Electronic Remittance Advice, which is the electronic file from the payer, on Payer Portal Remittance section, when you check claim status online, Clearinghouse Remittance section, if the ERA is routed through the clearinghouse. Now, let us move on to the second step, which is compare the two CPT codes and identify which service is the main or parent service and which one is the smaller or child service. Because in a bundled denial, the parent code gets paid and the child code gets denied under CO-97. For example, the provider bills CPT 2006 in 10 as the main procedure for a joint injection and CPT 999213 for an evaluation and management or E&M visit. If the provider does not submit proper documentation to prove that the E&M visit was separate and significant, then CPT 99213, evaluation and management, becomes the child service. As a result, the insurance company will deny it as a bundled denial or a CO-97 denial. This step helps you clearly understand what the payer expects and why one code was paid while the other was denied. This is the clarity that 99% of AR callers never get. Now come to the third step to resolve bundle denial. At this third stage, we check if the modifier was missing or wrong. This step solves 70% of all bundle denials instantly. Because if you identify that the service was actually separate and not part of the bundled services, then you need a modifier. For example, we use Modifier 25 to document that the evaluation and management service was actually separate from the bundled procedure. We use Modifier 59 to show that a procedure or service is distinct from the bundled service or procedure. But if the provider forgets to add the correct modifier to the billed CPT code, then the bundle denial will always happen. So, as a smart AR caller, check if the provider actually performed two separate services. Check if the documentation supports it. If the answer to the two questions is yes, add the correct modifier and resubmit the claim with proper and correct documentation. That's it. No rocket science, just smart inspection. Now, at the final step, always review all provider documentation before submitting an appeal for a denied claim. Documentation is the only proof that shows whether the services were truly separate and distinct or the payer correctly bundled the services under CO-97. At this stage, focus only on the provider's note. Do not rely on assumptions. Do not rely on coding alone. Ask yourself 4 simple and critical questions. 1. Does the documentation clearly prove that the services were separate? 2. Is there clear evidence that the procedures were performed on different body parts or sites? 3. Does the documentation clearly explain the medical necessity for each service? 4. Do the diagnoses support both services separately? If the documentation proves that both services are separate, you can submit a clean and confident appeal. Attach all supporting clinical notes and required documents to justify a separate payment. If the documentation confirms that both services are correctly bundled according to CCI edits or payer policy and the payer denied your claim correctly, then the claim is not appealable. It should be closed in accordance with contractual guidelines. Now let us wrap up this video with one key takeaway you must always remember. A modifier alone cannot fix your denied claim if your documentation is weak. Arguing with the payer also cannot resolve your denied claim if your documentation is weak. But clear, complete, and detailed documentation can fix a denied claim. It proves that the services were truly separate, and it helps you get the payment from the payer. Once you follow this approach, you stop guessing, you stop wasting time, and you start working only on cases you can actually win. This is how smart AR callers work. Alright friends, now I'm sure the entire concept of CO-97 bundle denials is crystal clear to you. And if you still have even a small doubt, even a small one, don't keep it to yourself. You can message me directly on WhatsApp at 9999653819. I'm happy to help. You can also join my WhatsApp group where I share real denial scenarios, practical resolutions, live claim breakdowns, and genuine US healthcare job openings. The link is in the description. If today's video gave you clarity and confidence, do me one small favor. Share this video with your friends, colleagues, or anyone who wants to grow in US healthcare. And please hit the like and subscribe button and write your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps this learning community grow. See you in the next video. Alright.